Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you my first impressions of the Daniel Smith Watercolor Essentials set. Well, I thought that I have already found my perfect watercolors, which is core. I couldn't miss out on the opportunity to get some samples of the Daniel Smith watercolors when I saw that they had a 25% discount in the local store. And while it's not the very first impression of Daniel Smith watercolors, because I do have a few colors from them, but these were just random tubes of colors that I was lucky enough to get, and I've never really used them in a painting. Daniel Smith watercolors gained a reputation of the best watercolors in the market. It seems at least like most of the watercolor artists prefer specifically that brand, so I really couldn't miss out on trying them out. This set comes with 6 5ml tubes that contain the information about the pigment series and light fastness, and all of the colors included in the set have excellent light fastness. And as you can see, these tubes I filled up till the rim, which is actually even a little bit of a problem, because only 2 out of 6 colors I was able to open and squeeze out the amount I needed without any problems, while other 4 they just exploded in my hand, and therefore I felt that I actually lost some of the pigment because the pigment just kept getting out of the tube and I needed to go and wash my hands 4 times because otherwise it was just a mess. Though I know that this is not the case with the 15ml tubes, but with the small tubes, yeah, it was a little bit difficult. But of course it's hard to say because too little paint is also bad, too much paint is also bad, but that was just an observation. But let's proceed to the swatching. I'm going to be using my XL Mix Media Canon sketchbook. It is a very nice sketchbook and it turned out to become my swatch book, and I make swatches of all kind of mediums in it, and I really love the sketchbook. And so the first color is Hansa Yellow Light. Then we're moving to New Gamboge, which has really surprised me. It's a very, very beautiful color. And now we're moving to Pyrrole Scarlet. It's very pigmented, like immensely, and here you can see how far the pigment can go, and the flow is just fantastic. I just felt like there was no way to stop this paint. Generally, I could notice already there that even though I didn't use the paper of the highest quality, the flow was amazing. Like, the paint just kept moving, as you can see with this quinacridone rose as well. It's just beautiful. I was making, a road made out of water, and then the pigment was flowing. It was very impressive. It wasn't as fast as with the core watercolors, for example, but I could definitely see that the pigment could still move even if it wasn't cotton. And here is Phthalo Blue. Oh, I really like this color. I know that many say that ultramarine is the best blue color to have on your palette, but I like Phthalo Blue, even though it can be very staining sometimes. And the last but not the least is ultramarine. Very beautiful color, highly pigmented, and you can see that it is very, very granulating. I cannot say that granulation is a very important quality for me, but it's nice to have and I'm ready to experiment with it. Then I've made the color mixes as well, and it just didn't work on that paper. It didn't work at all. As you can see, it just ate all the color and you couldn't see whether you could get a good purple, and the combination of the warm colors just turned into mud. So it's very surprising, but we need to remember also that it is not a watercolor paper. And now let's move to the painting. And I decided to paint an eye, and this was like, I don't know, the second time I've ever drew an eye, and I'm pretty sure it's the first time I've ever painted an eye, or at least in this size, so be nice. And if you're enjoying this video so far, please remember to like and subscribe. It would really help out my channel, and then more people would be able to see this video. This painting I was using Fabriano Studio paper, 25% cotton. I didn't want to use 100% cotton paper because I believe that if the paper is very good, then it can actually hide some flaws of the paint. But that's just in my opinion. I just thought that this paper would make this review or this first impression a little bit more honest in a way. Anyway, the first impressions that I got while working with these paints were the following. First of all, for me, the flow of the paint was actually very slow. If you compare it, for example, with core watercolors that flow like extremely high, and by the way, if you're interested maybe in a direct comparison of Daniel Smith with core watercolors, then please let me know in the comments below, because I love core and I will happily do a comparison of these two brands. So in comparison to core, the flow was very slow, but yet it was still very strong. You'll see me later on trying to lift the paper, and even though I succeeded, then later on you could see that the paint just crept in back into place, so I wasn't able to leave any white space on the paper. I could also notice quite a visible shift in color when the paint was drying. And even though I could layer it very well, the other observation that I've made is that it's actually quite easy to lift the paint from the layer below, or at least this is what I felt, and I needed to get used to it a little bit, because in a way I like staining paints a little bit more, because then they just dry and I can layer over without being concerned that the layer underneath will get destroyed or the colors will mix too much. So it's not necessarily good or bad, I guess it just depends on what would you prefer and what you're more used to. But the one aspect that clearly stood out for me is the paint's luminosity. And it's not that just they dry lighter, because for example, Schmincke watercolors, I find them also quite subtle, but that's it, they do just dry and that's pretty much it, and that's not entirely the case with Daniel Smith. It was a very weird feeling, to be honest, because I had this thought in mind that I just need to keep going and trust the paints, and then it's definitely going to work out. I don't know, maybe because so many artists are using Daniel Smith and it's a brand of choice for many watercolor hobbyists and professionals, that just gave me the confidence that it's definitely going to work out. But it was quite of an unusual feeling and I really enjoyed it, and it was enough for me to, if not fall in love with them, but to definitely start liking them a lot. And have you had the chance to try out Daniel Smith watercolor paints? Did you like them? Leave the comment down below and let me know what were your first impressions of these paints. I'm very curious to know if I'm the only one who thought that these paints were strangely satisfying. But for now I'll stop rambling and just let you enjoy the process. And here is the final painting. I really enjoyed painting with Daniel Smith paints, and I think that this Daniel Smith Watercolor Essential set is actually a fantastic set to get acquainted with this brand. And I got some extra tubes, so I'm going to be making my custom Daniel Smith watercolor palette, and if you're interested in seeing that, then check out my next video. But for now, I want to thank you for staying till the end of this video. I really hope you have enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye!